Hi everyone, it is September 1st, 2015, long time no see. Stay tuned for the update on that. But anyway, I'm down here in the garden near the greenhouse that I put up a few years ago, and there's a new project going on. Let me show you. Well, if you'd ask me, that looks like the start of another greenhouse. Now if you all remember, I got my 12-foot by 80-foot greenhouse here, which did serve me well this summer, except it's only 7 feet high, around 7 foot 2, 7 foot 3 to the middle. So my tomatoes and my cucumbers, they've been touching the roof for about a month now. So, and also because it's so long, it's hard to ventilate it with crops growing up in the middle. I have fans every so many feet, like every 15-foot box fans, which aren't the best solution, but they were on sale when I put those in, and they did well early on in the year. But when the whole section, this whole section in the middle raised bed is just completely filled with plants, there's no air that's blowing. So it gets very hot in there, which makes it quite unbearable to be in there during the day. So my thought is for next year, I'll recap how the market's been going in a later video. But the market's been going well. In the springtime, I had lots of lettuce, mustard greens, kale, greens in here. The problem is because the tomatoes and everything else started growing a lot faster once they got heated, like once it was hot in there in June and July, all the lettuce bolted. So the goal for this greenhouse next year is to ventilate it with side vents, just simple side vents. I'll be putting more in, eventually doing roll-up curtains, possibly just on the end 20 feet, because that's the direction where the wind blows in that way. But enough of that. You've seen that before. You've seen the videos that I made on construction of that. There's nothing different. The inside's a little bit different, but the structure itself is the same. So anyway, fast forward here. If you remember from previous videos, there was just crap here. Weeds, and I had onions here a couple years ago and weed barrier, and I stored my mowers and some of my outdoor equipment here and what have you. But I decided that I was going to put up another greenhouse, and the reason being is because, as I said earlier, the big greenhouse, I want to use that for my low crops and try to grow longer into the season, lettuces and your leafy greens. So I need a place to plant cucumbers, tomatoes, who knows, maybe some pole beans, early pole beans, maybe even a section of melons, because it's so hard to grow them up here. But anyway, again, 12 foot wide, and this is only 40 feet long. Now I'm really kind of not beefing it up, but doing to this one what I almost should have did to this one. I know I said in the original video when I made this one those years ago, a couple years ago, I said I don't want it any higher than 7 foot because I can't reach any higher. Which, that's a good reason to keep it under 7 feet, so you can reach the top, you know, the top rail, the purlin. However, it limits what you can grow. So the idea with this one is, this is a progress so far. It's 12 by 40 feet, so it's exactly half the size of that one. 12 by 40 feet gives you still plenty of space. And the way I'm designing this one, as we can look right here, the hoops come straight down against the baseboard, 6 inches up off the ground. Fast forward over to this one, it's a lot higher. This is actually around 40 inches, 36, 38, 40, roughly around that. Let's call it 3 foot. So that'll give me 3 foot higher space in the middle. So if this one's 7 foot, a little bit more than 7 foot, this one will be around 10 foot. Which gives you plenty of vertical space to grow tomatoes, to grow cucumbers, pole beans, anything that'll grow 10 feet in a season. Now, the way, while I'm doing this, I decided to put up side curtains. I wasn't going to do it yesterday because I have my wood I got delivered the other day was for a certain design, but I figured, you know what, instead of trying to add these side curtains later on when the plastic's already up, when there's beds in here, when there's, you know, snow on the ground or plants even in here next spring, I'm going to spend the extra money and I'm going to do it now. And doing it now, not only that way it's done and I don't have to worry about the cost or the work, it's also easier. Without having anything here to get in my way when I walk, so easy to put the baseboards in and the top. Now, mind you, I said it's easy. However, I'll show you the demonstration here. So basically, these are steel pipes, 1.25 inches, or excuse me, 1.5 inches outside diameter. So basically, you have to tap this, and then drill a hole through it, and then drill a hole through your wood, attach it with your lag bolt, nuts, or nut on this end, washer on this side. It's just a round cap and a washer. And the reason why I use round caps, I call them round caps, the round tops instead of a hex bolt, is because it's nice and smooth. So when the plastic meets this, which is where the side curtain will then be below it, it's nice and smooth. When I put my 1x3 stripping to hold the plastic on, I won't have any issues with anything sticking out, because this is quite flush to that. So basically, it takes quite a while to do this. I mean, again, I'm doing it all myself in the way I have to. You can't just take a big drill bit and drill through there. If you have a drill press and some clamps, then you could, but I couldn't do it that way. I had to use self-tapping screws to get a small hole started, then move up to a large one, and then a larger drill bit, and then through it. But all in all, once I got the hang of it, I remembered that's how I did it over here to the other one, but I couldn't figure out that in the beginning. But after a couple rungs in, I figured it out. So anyway, there will be side curtains here. There will be side curtains here. Now you may say, well, you're doing kind of things, you're doing this whole side, and then you're going to do, like, how are you going to do it? Well, the mistake I did when I made this one is I put the hoops up and I built the structure without putting any beds in. So all the dirt, all the lumber that I had for the raised beds in here, I had to haul in either by hand or with a wheelbarrow. And now starting at one end, going halfway through the middle up to 40 feet, and I have a door on the other end, of course, it got very tiring and very old. So this one, the way I'm going to do it is I'm basically going to complete everything that I can from this side and then move on to this side. So right now, the baseboards are up, the side curtains are up, the two end wall baseboards, this one and the one here, this is actually facing west, so the sun kind of goes like this straight across. There won't be a door at this end. The door will just be on this side. So anyway, so I'm going to do that. Then the next step is to put in this raised bed, and then I can put the lumber in, and then I can use my tractor and my bucket to scoop my compost and to scoop my dirt, which I have down in there, and do a bit of a mix, and then just dump it in, and then just rake it out instead of hauling it in with wheelbarrows. That's such a waste of time and energy. This way I can do it real easy with that, pack them real full, and not have to worry about it. And then once that one's completed, then I'll move to the center one, and then here, this is where I'd put in the south side. They're facing south. The south side posts, and repeat this process over here. Put the side curtain, baseboards up, side curtain, and then with the bucket still, put the raised bed in here, take the bucket right on top and just dump it straight in. So as much labor I can save with the wheelbarrow, I'm gonna do that. And then once all that's done, then the hoops will go up. I guess kind of in between the last two steps I said is the end walls will be completed before this stuff goes in. I have the hoops, or I have my bender up at the house, and I have my pipe for that. I just have to make a jig up and bend the pipe just like I did with this one, and that way I'll bend some for this one and I'll bend some for this one. And once this one is in, which this is the goal hopefully for tomorrow, bend just the end hoop, and maybe even probably just the one, possibly this one, we'll see. But the end here is going to be solid wall with chipboard like plywood, and then there'll be 4 big windows just cut with hinges that I can just open right up. There'll be screening behind it to keep the birds and stuff out. That way it can get maximum venting straight, because as I said, the wind comes straight across this way, right across this little hump. On the other side of this paddock and these trees is a big lake, so the wind comes right up this way usually, or it comes across this way, but more likely it comes from the southwest. But overall, I'm going to have, this is going to be my propagation station. Now I am losing a lot of space by doing it, but I'm going to be putting in 4-foot benches all the way across, or 4x12. I'll have an area, everything will be off the ground. It'll be, 30 inches, 36 inches, whatever, the countertop height would be to make it comfortable. And then in this section over here, raised up, I'll have an area framed in where I can put my potting soil. And then underneath, I actually found some cabinets for free on the side of the road. Put a couple cabinets down there to keep my fertilizer and my tools in. And then on the bottom here, I'll probably build another set of shelves to keep all my trays, all my pots, and keep everything out of this greenhouse. Right now at the end, there's all kinds of junk in there. I'm gonna move all that stuff into here, organize it, and that way it can just sit here. And you know, so that'll be probably the next video that I'll have out, will be showing how I'm doing this end wall. And the end wall, like the wood, I said, will probably come up, it'll come up well above this. This is about 36 inches, 33 inches. And it's probably gonna go up at least 4 foot, probably higher. And then at the top, of course, there'll be the plastic that wraps around. But the reason why I do the end walls this time in wood is because I'm not putting a door in here, but I can easily frame in windows. All I gotta do is take my sheet of plywood, lay it flat on some sawhorses, cut the window out while it's laying there, and then just attach it with a hinge and then put it right up. So it's not like I'm having to cut and measure for a new window when I cut the hole. Just use the same hole. If you get what I mean. Once it's up, you'll get a better indication. Excuse me. So that's update as of now. Down at this end here, as I said again, there will be roll-up curtains on this side as well as the south side. This side down here, I know you see my shadow here, it's getting late in the day, it's about 5 o'clock. Again, this one here will be likely made out of wood as well, the end wall. And again, I'll have bigger windows or bigger vents because I won't need the space. Like the beds here are gonna go straight to the edge. And then wherever, like the door, I'm still debating if I wanna put the door smack dab in the middle or put it to one side and then have like the entranceway that way. So that way I can almost put the raised bed in the middle almost all the way to the end. I'm undecided. Because I have this 3 foot here, I'll easily be able to make the door a 6.5 foot door. I know you're not looking at anything up here, but I'll easily be able to put it at the end if I feel that'll work out. I'll have to draw it up a bit yet, but this will just be a simple end wall, nothing fancy, just with some vents cut. So overall, this is what I've gotten done in 2 days. I'm happy so far with the progress. Stay tuned for more. Hello everyone. This video is number 2 in my second greenhouse series. This is going to be going over the west end wall. Now, and I had, in my first video, I kind of explained how I was going to do this, but there was no visuals to see anything. And I got a few comments saying, oh, you should put a door in there, or what about putting a door, ventilation, etc. Well, with the visual here, hopefully it makes more sense as I try to explain things. Now, the reason, obviously there's no door here. It's about 10 foot 3, give or take, around 10 foot to the top of the hoop house. So it's marginally bigger, about 3 foot. So it's about 40% taller than that one. But anyway, the reason why I did it like this with no door is because this area here is going to be my propagation area. 12 foot by about probably 40 or 42 inch my bench will be. I'm undecided that yet. That's an afterthought when I come to build that. So with having that there, there's impossible to have a door. If I'd have a 3 foot door, I'd only have 9 feet of table space instead of 12, and that's 75%. So that's a big enough amount for me that I don't feel I need a door at the end. Now, to counter having ventilation from a door, I have these vents. I have 2 there, and then I have that one shut at the moment. They're just on hinges, and they just can just flop down. But anyway, I have top vents. The reason why the one on the right is smaller than the one on the left is because this chipboard comes pre-marked at certain intervals with black lines, and I misjudged one of those lines for the line that I drew. So instead of redoing the whole thing and wasting that sheet, I just made a smaller vent. It's a minor inconvenience. But anyway, where there's no wood, there's going to be plastic. Now, the reason why I did the plastic like that is because yesterday around 5 o'clock, the sun was real low in the sky, and everything through here would have been shaded all the way out to at least 8 feet. You can already see some of the shade, and right now it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. So instead of losing all of this by shade, is I'm going to put plastic. Just hook it onto the outside here with my 1x3s, whatever, and at least that way it'll let in a little bit more light, which should help. And then the reason why I have a top and bottom vents is because based on the temperature, I mean, in the summertime, you know, come June, July, August, September, like we're in now, the vents would likely be open all the time. Want that fresh air to come in. You know, come July, you don't want the temperature inside to be, you know, 100 degrees every day. You want it to be what the outside temperatures are, but you're still getting a little bit extra, which is what you want. Mainly you want to have vents in the springtime, and then later in the fall, if you have a fall garden, to regulate the air that comes in during the day, and then in the evenings, of course, you usually shut those. But anyway, I'll give you a quick overview of the outside here. Everything is just attached with a couple hinges on each one. These ones here fold up. I just have it wedged in there now with the screw, but these will close and they fit right in the opening that they were cut. And I'll figure out some kind of latching mechanism at the moment. And then just for now, I have just a screw there just to kind of hold it up to let the air through. Because I can already feel, as soon as I put these doors in, I screw on the other side and you can feel a nice air coming right through these. So it's doing its job. And then the ones at the top, those will be likely used more in the springtime to get some air moving along the top. And then the bottom ones, because the bottom ones are so much bigger, it'll pull in a lot more air, so that might not be the best thing in early spring. But again, like I said, once summer comes and everything's open all the time, they won't really have an issue. But I wanted to have that option to have one vent out of 4, 2, 3, you know, do one side, the other side, top, bottom, however I wanted, to give me maximum ventilation. And I don't think I'm going to lose anything as far as without having a door. I mean, mind you, this is only 40 feet long, half of what the other one is, so it's not really that far to walk back and forth. And the thing is since I'm going to be doing all my propagating over here, once I bring in all my supplies, my seed, whatever, next spring, all that stuff is going to stay here until I either A, plant it in this raised bed, plant it in the raised beds in that greenhouse, plant it outside, or take it to market to sell. Now, only a 12 by 40 inch bed or table here doesn't give me too much space, but since early in the spring, you know, April, even in the beginning of May, there won't be anything in this greenhouse yet as far as planted. It'll be too early. However, it won't be too early to start seedlings that I can sell to market, and I can even cover them in the evening if it gets down too cold. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a raised bed here, as I mentioned before, and what I'll do is I'll just cut pieces of plywood to sit on top of this, so any extra seeds that I have, seedlings, I can just line them up here, and then it'll just be temporary. So then as soon as I'm done selling those, or the space frees up, or I need the space, I pick the wood up, store it underneath the bench, and there you go. I mean, that's the goal. And all those things could change by, you know, when next April rolls around. I got another, what, I guess 7 months or so to wait until then. But anyway, that's the west end wall. Stay tuned for the east end wall. I'm working on it right now, and hopefully by the end of the day I'll have that done and have the video posted quite soon. So any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. I'm moving along a lot. It looks a lot slower than how I did my other one. The other one, I put the baseboards in, put the hoops up, and bam, then you're almost done, really. The end walls took a lot less time, but they were a lot smaller. I had pre-cut windows, doors, pre-cut, or pre-sized. So all I gotta do is frame it in, and plus it's not as tall. If this was only 7 feet tall, it wouldn't take half as much time. But anyway, I think it's gonna turn out good with this design. Time will tell, of course. But stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, this is part 3 in my new greenhouse construction series. This video I'm going to show you the east end wall and explain the purpose of having that. Okay, so excuse the wind noise and excuse the mess. This is a work in progress. So anyway, first video, ignore all this stuff, we'll get into that in a minute. Remember the first video, I had my baseboards up, I had the end wall done, explained that. Now this end wall looks a little bit different, semi the same. Down here, if you guessed it or not, that's where my vent is going to be. Call it a vent, window, whatever. It just has, I just have a screw holding it open now because there's no need for it to be down, and plus I don't have a latch or anything. Here is the door. The door right now is screwed shut because I don't need to be opening it in and out, because I can just go in from the side that's not complete yet. And then up along the top here, it's just similar to what's down there, except here I did offset the center point. Now if you're looking at it from way back, you probably won't even notice that. And the reason I did that is because the middle purlin will fit in right in there, right between where this horizontal or this kind of diagonal piece it'll fit right in there. And that way I can bring it right to the end and tie everything together with a set of bolts, or I might use some self-tapping screws, something just kind of tie it all together. And that's basically it as far as excuse me, as far as the outside. This will all be plasticed over. If I find that I need more ventilation, the reason why I did these square and actually have a support in the middle is I can easily cut this plastic out and make removable windows. Make a small frame out of 1x2s or something, which I have done before in the barn actually, to let some light in where the sun wouldn't reach in if otherwise. So anyway, so we'll see. I'm still thinking with having the roll-up sides, and because the door will be open most of the time in this window, we should have plenty of ventilation. Now, let's go to the inside. Now again, ignore everything that I'm not talking about. But on the inside, it's just framed out. Now you may say to yourself, well, this doesn't look too square, too plumb. Well, it doesn't. This piece of plywood here is fitting the contour of the 2x6 on the ground. This side here is about 4 inches taller than that side as far as the slope. And just for ease of doing this, I just left that how it is. However, the rest of this stuff, this here, the vertical, all these are all squared up, level and plumb. Same with the door. And the reason I did that is just so it actually looks nicer. Than also if I want to set something here. Here I have some radishes and some lettuce, which I actually have planted in the new raised beds, which I'll cover in another video. And that way, if I ever want to put some kind of shelving on this, it's already level. I don't have to then re-level it. And so I mean, it may look a little weird from the inside, but you know, it's not. I'm not going for looks here. I'm going for function. And then again, the door swings in. Again, if it is quite heavy with the 7/16 inch chipboard and the 2x4 frame. However, if I find that the door is more of a hindrance as far as letting ventilation through, especially early on in the season when your roll-up sides won't be up, I can easily, again, like I said, just like this one, I can cut a vent section of it. This is about 6.5 feet tall, about I think maybe 70 some inches. But anyway, I can cut a vent out here, flip it down, put some screening in it, and as I said before excuse me, as I said before, I will be planning on screening in all of these vents and the ones down there. Now, in the other greenhouse, I don't have any type of screening, and the doors are wide open all the time. I never have issues with bugs or well, not necessarily bugs, but rodents and different things like that. So I may just do it to the bottom ones. And well, the reason why I know I mentioned doing it to the top ones over there is so I don't get any birds flying in here. I've had issues with birds in this one because they fly in because they think it's an opening. But if you put a screen there, I mean, they may hit the screen, which might not be the nicest thing, but at least they'll hit that and realize they can't get in and then stop coming in. But anyway, while I'm here, I'll cover this section, not the irrigation per se, but the reason why I have this flat panel on here, squared up, plumb, is this is where my electrical box, one of my electrical connections, and then as well as this is where my irrigation is going to come from, which I'll cover the irrigation in a later video. That's pretty much done, so that'll be coming up shortly. And I'm getting a timer, backflow preventer, the whole deal. Maybe not a backflow preventer. I'm not too keen on those. I don't really feel I need it, but anyway, that's what that's for. So a nice square thing, solid, where I can mount all that stuff to. So anyway, let's go back here, show you from the back. In a nutshell, that's the end wall. Less complicated than that one as far as where the vents are and the whole deal. But this one's not having shelving or having benches. I call them benches, but they're more like tables where you're going to work at. It's not going to have any of that stuff as of yet. There will be no need for it. Plus, to keep the aisleway and everything open, there won't be room for that. So anyway, stay tuned for part 4 and subsequent 5, 6, 7. And thanks for watching. Till next time. Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to be going over the raised beds that I have here in the new greenhouse. So basically I have 3 beds. The bed on each side, this is facing south, the south and the north bed, they're the same. They're 32 feet long by 2 feet wide. And then they're just 2 by 6. Everything's 2 by 6 spruce. Now, each bed, the two, like I said, on the ends are exactly the same. The one in the middle is about 30, well, I'd say it's around 30 feet. Because at the end, I'll go down there in a minute, it's actually shorter this way than these ones because of my bench, but then they stick out about a foot farther than these ones. And the middle raised bed is, you see, it's 3 feet wide, like I said, by around 30 feet long, and this is a doubled up 2 by 6. So it gives you around 11 inches of growing depth. And you may say, well, why'd you do it that way? Well, the only real reason I did it that way is because I over-ordered lumber. I almost ordered enough to do this bed twice, and that's including the wood over there. So instead of wasting it or not using it on something, I decided, you know what, I'm going to mostly plan to plant tomatoes in here anyway. So of course when you plant tomatoes, you like to plant them deep. So if I just plant them in this one, I'd be digging out only 5 inches of dirt, and then they'd be touching the ground where it's hard. But here I got 11 inches. I can come in here with I have like a hand post hole digger, come right in here at the soil, dig my hole, put my plant in there, put some fertilizer if I like, cover it back in. Might be a little bit more tedious that way, but in the long run, you know, the plant will have a lot better root system to get established, and I think it'll do well. And the soil that I used, see if I can get up here where it's a little bit more excuse me, a little bit more visible. Now if you remember in my other greenhouse, the one over there, the long one, I just used, in my videos I explained, I just used compost, just horse manure that's been composted down over the years. Now that, I'm going to stand up here, that does give good nutrients to the soil. However, when it's dry, it's so hard. I don't have an example laying here. I always throw out the bad pieces. It gets so hard, and when you try to hand water, the water just runs off. Or if you plant lettuce seeds, something really fine, it all just washes it into like the lowest point of the row. So what I did here is I'm actually starting to dig a little bit of a pit, not necessarily a quarry, but quarry is for rock. But I'm digging a pit down below the garden where I'm actually finding some nice sandy loam soil, which is this stuff right here. It's quite, well, it's quite clay based at the top of the pit that I'm digging, and once you get about 1.5 feet down, it's real nice. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing the horse compost with the dirt, so you'll still have those great nutrients in the soil from the compost. However, what the dirt will do, it'll really, here now you can see how sandy loam that is. You can make a little ball, but then it breaks right apart. That's like a sandy loam soil, which is almost ideal for growing in. You don't want your heavy clay based soils that just hold water and are real sticky, the roots don't penetrate it. I think this stuff will do great. So anyway, so I just kind of mixed it up down at my compost pile there, my manure pile, and then brought it up in here with the tractor. Like, see, it's a big ball, it just crumbles. So once it's planted in here and I have my drip system set up, you know, real slow drips, you know, 1/2 gallon or 1 gallon an hour, and you know, you let your timer run for an hour or whatever. I think the water will soak down real good, and I think this soil will be a winner. So anyway, so that's what this is the, now we're looking east now towards the east end wall. This is what the raised bed looks like. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the side curtains for the new greenhouse. Excuse my shadow, it's only about 10 o'clock in the morning, so everything's real low in the sky. But anyway, along the north wall, that's facing north, the north wall, and this is the south wall, I'm going to have roll-up sides. And because my land here is on a bit of a slope, from that side to this side is about 4 to 6 inches higher here than over there. So the curtain over there is going to be a lot wider or a lot taller than this curtain. But basically, the way you do a side curtain is the same way you do your baseboard. Attaches to your main support pipe here. Basically, you put a self-tapping screw through here. You drill out your holes, you drill it through your wood, you make sure your wood is level. Put a carriage bolt through with 2 washers, and then, I'm not sure if you call it a carriage bolt, with a flat, with the smooth end here, so you can butt your 1x3 strapping right up to that. And then you thread it through with a bolt. And I actually had a fitting that I can put on my impact wrench to really clamp this down just until the washer and just until this pipe starts to get an indentation. But that's solid, that'll never come off. And you may look at, I'm gonna step back here, you may look and you see, it may not look like there's the same consistency as far as width from this end to this end. And you know what, there's not, because up here to here, there's a slope difference. So instead of following the contour of the land to put the, this one over here is actually fairly level from left to right. This one is not. It's just the way the land is. So instead of trying to dig everything out to make it flat, I just adjusted my side curtain, because I want the side curtain to be level. I don't want it to follow the contour, because if it follows the contour, then the problem is when you go to roll up the side, you're going to get some that doesn't roll up all the way, and you're going to have some that rolls up too much just because of how the angle is. So the goal with keeping it level is I can have extra plastic rolled down and then attach my pipe at the bottom, and then as I roll it up, there'll be more material here, but the way I have the pipe set up, it'll roll it up evenly. That may not make any sense to you, but trust me, once I get it set up, it'll make a lot more sense. And then over here, this is exactly mirrored the same as this as far as the way I did it. Every 4 feet, I have a carriage bolt through there, washers and nuts through my main support that goes in the ground anywhere between 2 and 4 feet. It's quite rocky and hard in here, so some of these main supports are only down 2.5 feet. Other ones are down 3.5, 4 feet. I know that's not below the frost line up here, but I'm not too worried, because where this greenhouse sits is high up, because as you can see, it slopes off there. Everything here slopes that way, so water shouldn't be setting in here as far as things frosting. But anyway, those are my side curtains. Pretty simple. Once I get the plastic on, hopefully in a couple weeks, I'll bring you back and show you exactly how the curtains work, because you need a lot more things. You got to put eye hooks in, you got to run your string to keep it tight, but that's all after the fact. So anyway, side curtain video, and I guess I'll touch on right now. I have my hoops up. It's around 10 foot 2 to the center where the center purlin is going to be. So you're going to have all that domed area that's going to be completely covered, and then you're going to have your side curtain. Here it's about, I think, 18 to 20 inches. Over there you're about 20 to 26 inches, 24 inches I think, as far as your side curtain. So it'll allow plenty of ventilation, because the air usually comes from the west or the southwest, so it'll provide plenty of ventilation come July and August next year when it's so hot in there. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be covering the irrigation setup that I have in the new greenhouse. Now it all starts up there at my shop, and I got a running shed, and I got a water line, 3/4 inch poly, about 130 feet buried down to this corner of the other greenhouse, and I have it come up and it tees off, and I have a valve there where I can hook a hose up for in here or anything future that I want to put in here. And the black poly 3/4 inch goes all the way down here. It ties in right below my water canteen there. I got a valve there, 3/4 inch poly, with just a garden on-off valve that I can use to fill up buckets or whatever down there. And then I have an auxiliary out the back, which you probably can't see, used to flush out the line in the springtime, drain it in the winter. And I'll also be putting a valve there so I can use it to water the hops or anything else along this side of the greenhouse. Now, off the 3/4 inch poly, I got a T fitting, 3/4 inch black pipe. It's buried. It comes into a 3/4 inch mainline PVC. This is the overview, excuse me, of what my little irrigation area, other than the beds, I'll get into in a minute. So, it might be easier if I stand over here. So basically it comes up here, 3/4 inch line, And I was debating how to do this setup. Actually, I'm going to stand on this side. Easier for me to talk. Debating on how I wanted to do this setup. I originally was just going to have one shut off going into my timer and then into the ground, and that tees off onto my beds, which I'll explain in a second. But I was debating how I wanted to do it. If I wanted to have some kind of bypass, just do it with that. Because if I want to flush out my lines, I don't want to be flushing it out through my timer and through my pressure regulator. Because if there's garbage in the line from who knows what over the winter, whatever, I don't want to be pushing that through this, possibly damage it. I mean, this is you know, durable hard plastic. I'm sure the insides are probably metal, but I don't want to be pushing that stuff through there, especially into my reducer, which is all plastic. I don't want to be messing with that. So I ended up, you can see here, it's like a big rectangle, but it all flows one way. It doesn't flow the other way. Now I guess if I'd have this valve open and this valve, it could kind of flow up like this, but with the pressure coming out of here, it's not going to do that. So anyway, this comes off elbow 3/4 inch. This is all 3/4 inch pipe at this moment, schedule 40 PVC. Now it comes into my first shut off. Turn this is obviously horizontal, it's off, and vertically or parallel to your pipe it is on. So it comes into that, goes into my timer. This is just the name is Melnor, I think that's the brand. I got it out of from a local place up here, and it basically has settings from anywhere between 15 minutes and 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. It also has a manual setting. So basically it's mechanical, it's not electronic, there's no power, there's no anything. It's worked just like a wind-up watch type thing. So you basically set it to what you want. If you hear it clicking, and it starts to turn down. If you want to just turn it on manually, you pop it over to the manual side, and then you click it back. And then the water flows out of that through my 10, I think this is either 10 or 15 PSI regulator. And I'll show you how that works in a second. So that comes down into here, tees off, goes into the ground. Now, I'll go back to this in one moment. From the ground, it goes off into 1/2 inch PVC pipe. Tees over to this bed, tees this bed, that bed, and then this here is, I'm also calling it an auxiliary to blow out the line, or if I want to fill a bucket or hook something here or whatever. I wanted to put one there to have the option. I might even run some type of mist system up at the top, and that one would be great for that because it already has a valve, run the pipe up. But anyway, it costs an extra, you know, 3 or 4, maybe say $6 to put that in. Well worth it. So anyway, it comes into each bed, is individually controlled, has its own ball valve, so I can shut it off, reduce or advance the pressure any way I like it. And these are just simple ball valves, counterclockwise open, clockwise locks it, same as the 3/4 inch. And attached to that, excuse me, is 1/2 inch. Now this is 1/2 inch poly. Goes the length of the beds here. And I have a bunch of product ordered with my drippers and how to punch holes in this. I'll be showing that in a later video, but that's basically where my drip emitters and my poly line, or my little 1/4 inch pipe, will be coming off of, going to tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, whatever I plan here. Each one's going to have its own emitter, which I'll cover in a later video. So back to this. That was pretty straightforward. Back to this. Now, if for some reason I don't want to use the timer, or if I want to just water things, dial it in myself, I can use this valve. And this valve here, this has the full pressure. It bypasses everything. Now, word of caution with doing this, as you've probably heard and see, this reducer, or this pressure reducer, has a little hole here. Now, I believe that's used either for backflow prevention, or it's used in case the pressure, like, because I'm on a well, it's not constant, it kind of fluctuates. It might be there just for that. So word of warning, if you do that and you bypass this without having anything open, mind you, you will have water coming out of this little hole. But don't worry, it's just prevention for the reducer. So I'm just going to turn it off so that stops dripping. So anyway, and then this basically continues down into here. Same difference if I want to just do it manually, or if this is, for some reason, if this isn't putting out the pressure I need, I can always reconfigure this to get rid of the pressure reducer, and then I can control the pressure with these valves. That's why I have valves everywhere. You know, they're not the cheapest things. I think a 3/4 inch valve was maybe $4 or $5 up here, maybe 6. 1/2 inch valves are maybe $3.50. But I think it's going to save a lot of headaches, so I have that amount of adjustability. So that's basically the greenhouse irrigation setup. This is kind of the nerve center of it. I can always swap this out for an electronic timer if I want, or, you know, get rid of it all together. That's why I can shut that line off without having to redoing the plumbing. So my funnest feature, if you will, goes over here. You say, well, what does this go to? Well, as always, I have fresh valves, or, you know, new valves in any type of splitter. Well, I had, you see here, a kitchen sink. Now we're at the east end here. This space was not designated for this sink. I remembered I have this, actually came out of my parents' house about 2 or so years ago. I had it up in my barn for that amount of time in a bag, and I totally forgot about it. I said, you know what? I was originally going to put it in the other greenhouse, but it really didn't fit the way I had it set up. Plus I didn't want to be running hoses to it. It's just kind of silly to do that. And again, all this stuff is used just during, you know, warmer month. In the wintertime, the lines will be blown out and opened up and everything. But, so I had to get a couple fittings to kind of tie everything in there. You kind of see it down there, kind of rigged up into T's, and the flex hose that comes with the sink. But anyway, I figured, you know what, this is going to be a great double basin sink that I can use to wash my hands, get some soap here. But yeah, there you go. And then this pit is just going to be filled with gravel. I've been using this a while already, and the water is drained just fine. And you know, both sides are work here. I even have one of those plugs that, yeah, well, that one doesn't work. I have to figure out how to do that. One of those plugs, you get the idea, that stops up the water in case I ever want to, I don't know, do something like that. But in any case, that's the sink. Of course, it's just cold water only, but for being out here in the summer and the spring, that's all I need. So I'll stand back this way. I don't know what other greenhouses that are kind of hobby commercial or hobby kind of market gardens have a working sink. I think it's pretty cool, and I know it's going to help out when I'm done for the day, or if I'm switching between seeds, wash my hands off, have a towel or something hanging there, and then there you go, ready for the next thing. So this is, again, we're looking at the east wall here. East is straight that way. This is what the setup looks like with the shutoff valves, the kitchen sink, the auxiliary valves, the bed valves, timer, reducer, the whole deal. So anyway, part 2 of this will be coming up, where I'm going to do an unboxing and show you how to set up drip emitters with drip line, and how you can transfer that into using drip tape, which won't be used in this greenhouse, but I'll still show you kind of how that goes. Thanks for watching. Hi everyone, this will be the next part in my greenhouse, my new greenhouse series. Now I know it's been a bit of a break since I had the last video up. Various things, camera problems, I had to kind of fiddle around with it, and I had people up, and regardless of the excuse, this video I'm going to go over the plastic. So as you see, excuse my shadow and the glares, it is October, so the sun is very low in the sky. The plastic is up on both end walls. We'll go down the other one in a minute. And of course the side curtains are up. The side curtains I will be going over in a separate video, so check out that one if that's what you're interested in. But anyway, this plastic is quite tight on here. The ends of course aren't as tight, but in the middle here you can see that. See how smooth it is? Look at that. That's like a drum, no wrinkles. Now compare that to the greenhouse over here. You can see all the ripples. Now mind you, that was my first attempt at building a greenhouse. Secondly, the length of it made it a challenge to make everything, pull everything so tight. And thirdly, if you remember over here, everything was attached to the baseboard on the bottom. So it was a lot of bending over and doing that, which is a lot harder to keep things, it's just a lot harder to do it. This one, when I laid out the plastic, since I have a roll-up side here, the plastic came down and attached to this sidewall curtain support. So this one here is only 2 feet off the ground. The one on the other side, which I might go over there, that's like maybe 34 inches. So it was a lot easier to pull it down and hold it with my leg, you know, hold the stropping when I put a screw in, and then I could pull, you know, pull it down, put a screw in. so I wasn't bending all the way down to the ground, so it made it a lot easier to do that. But anyway, just as the other greenhouse, it has these 1x4, I like to call them furring strips, whatever, attached just with a 2-inch screw to a 2x4. The 2x4, you know, the lateral here is attached with a lag bolt and the nut, and then a washer on each end to the vertical supports, which go into the ground, which I did cover in a previous video. So anyway, excuse me, the way that the top curtain's done, same thing with the other side, is these are level. Now, if you look, it's a lot shorter distance here than that. I mean, I think there's maybe 3 or so inches different in height between there and there to there and here, and that's just because of the way that the land slopes. On the other side, it's the same way, although the land slopes this way as well as this way. So on that side, the side curtain's a lot taller. But nevertheless, side curtains I'll get into later. But it went up fairly easily. I had my wife help me just kind of hold the plastic so I could get it tacked in a couple spots. But you know, there's a couple little, I don't know if these are blemishes from it being bunched up when I was trying to pull it, or what. But if you took, you know, if you took a hairdryer to this would smooth right out. But again, I'm not worried about it. It's just a couple here and there. It may also just be because of how the plastic was folded. Because if you see, it's every little nick, every kind of notch. But again, it's I think it probably is because of how it was folded. But anyway, it was quite a thing to put up. The plastic that I put up was, the way that I ordered it is you had to order it by a certain size roll, or you got a custom order. Now the custom sizes were a lot more expensive because you paid by the foot, width, and length. But if you got it by a set width, by a certain length, it was cheaper because it was already set up on the roll on their machine. So when I got it, I got 32 feet wide by 60 feet long. Now the greenhouse is only 40 feet, but then you got to account for roughly 10 feet on each edge. And from the hoops themselves are 20 feet long, you know, from end to end. But you add 3 feet there, you add 2.5 feet here, that's about what, 26 feet, 26, 27 feet. So I had extra on both sides, of course. So I cut all that off, rolled it up, and I can use that again for whatever. So it's a 40 feet long, 50 feet long by 3 foot piece. I can use it for whatever. So now with having all the plastic, you see there's a lot of wrinkles because it's difficult to not have this bunching, because if you think about it, you have all this extra plastic on each side that has to come to the middle. Now thankfully, you know, I have a lot of this done with chipboard, and because of where I have the vents, I had to kind of attach a certain area, so you have more wrinkles than without. I mean, yes, I could probably you know, cut the plastic up in here and smooth this out and cut it, but you know what, to be honest with you, I'm not worried at all. It's just a little unsightly, and the only person that's going to be worried about that is me. No one else that's come and saw this has asked, oh, why is it all wrinkly? But anyway, you can see kind of the back. This is it finished. I got some vents open here. This one here is shut. I have a little bit to do here as far as putting pieces of wood across to keep it secure, but that's not a plastic video. So anyway, I'll go to the other side, and it looks kind of neat, my little corridor here. And now you may ask, well, why didn't you butt it up close? Well, 3 reasons really. One is because if I butted it up close, actually maybe 4 reasons, then if it would say it was only 6 inches or 8 inches here, one is it'd be almost impossible to walk between here. To fasten the plastic, replace it, or even walk in general. 2, when we get snow loads, I don't want the snow piled up this high in between here, because then what will happen is it'll fall, the snow will melt because the plastic will get warm from the inside, and then it'll refreeze, and then it'll get hard like cement, and it'll like glass, and it'll just cut it, which did happen on the other side with the window that it had. The ice broke one of my windows. But anyway, the next reason is because when I need to replace the plastic on this greenhouse or this one, I need to be able to get in here. And the last reason, I guess you could say, is because I have a roll-up side. If this would be butted up right next to this one, and this one doesn't have a roll-up side, the ventilation going this way would be non-existent. It would do nothing to have a vent here, because the wind would come out and it would hit this. It would do nothing. So anyway, that's why I left it like that. I think it's good enough. Again, this side, if you look down at real tight, this is real tight on here. I'm very happy with how this went up. Again, this one here is not as tight, but then again, this was my first attempt. So overall, there's not much else to be said. I think I did, again, did it mostly myself. I did it I'm quite happy with it. We had some wind through here before windstorms, and it held up just fine. Doesn't vibrate too much, and it should last me for another 6 years. Stay tuned for the next video, which I'll be going over the side curtains. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone. In this video, which will be likely to be the last kind of video on the greenhouse how-to, is I'm going to be going over the side curtains. Now I know I touched on those a little bit earlier, kind of saying, oh, this is where they're going to be, this is how it's going to be done, but there was no visuals because I had to get the plastic on first. So since the plastic's on, everything else is done, I'm going to show you how I did my side curtains. And I took some ideas from a couple other people. I don't think there's really, you know, a standard how to do it. You do it the way that works for you, and that's how I did it. So if you see here, of course, the side curtain's down. Now I will roll it up for you. However, since I don't have a tripod at the moment, this may be a little difficult. But anyway, I'll start here. So the plastic, how I did it is, you know, it's fastened to my side curtain rail here, whatever you want to call it, just support. And then down here, these are 4 10-foot lengths of top rail chain link fence, 1 1/4 inch. They don't have 1 3/8 or 1 1/2 up here. It's 1 1/4. That's kind of the consensus. So a little bit thinner. Same thing with my rails here, but it holds up just fine. So what I did is every 6 feet, you can kind of see it down in here. I took a piece of 1 1/2 inch PVC. It's actually electrical conduit, so it's not the PVC, the EMT conduit. And I cut it lengthwise in half, and I cut about 6 or 8 inches across. And I have 2 self-tapping screws that I have the plastic wrapped around the curtain pipe, wrapped around once or twice, you know, kind of rolled up, and then fastened with the screws and the little brace there. And I have that, I think, every 8 feet. So in total, there's, I guess, what, 5 or 6 throughout here, and it seems to be holding on the plastic just fine. Now, you may see this rope here and say, well, what is that for? Well, the rope is exactly that. It's there to provide support. So when this is rolled up, if there's no rope here, the roll-up side, the plastic will just flap back and forth, smack back and forth, back and forth. And not only is that annoying to listen to, it's not good for the plastic, it's not good for the supports to be hitting like that, and it's very easily could get cut, and you could get a scratch in the plastic, and then that could become a tear, and then you're screwed. So these go up and like these are just eye hooks. So every hoop, it alternates bottom top, and you go the whole way out. And now I guess you could go top to bottom each one and then tie it separately, but this way, have it like this, the rope stays fairly tight when it's all the way down. And for the winter time, the only thing I'm going to do to secure this more is actually have it done already, is I have a temporary furring strip to hold this down, because this is now open, you know, but you put a furring strip here, the wind can't get in here, and this won't lift it off. So let me see if I can get it rolled up for you without screwing up too bad. Okay, there you go. Now you can kind of hold on. Okay, so I'm going to roll it up quite easily, really, with one hand. There you go, and that's all the way up. Again, it's not perfectly level, but close enough. So then what I got to do, I won't be doing any of this until the spring, is I need to get some sort of way, either just a string or something to fasten it to this, so I can adjust it at different heights. Now I'll put it back down again, real easy. And this, in the rope, as you see it, it prevents it from smacking way around. So when you roll it back down, clip it in like that, push it down. Now it's down. So I mean, I have a little bit of fiddling to do with how this is going to actually work. Might cut the pipe, but again, for this year I don't need to do that, because the side curtains won't be used until probably May of next year. So I have 6 months before these will be used, so I won't need to do that. Now we'll go to the other side. I won't roll that one up, just because it's done. It's a little bit harder because my kind of makeshift handle broke off. But anyway, same difference. Now this curtain is higher. This is about 34 inches. The one over there is about 24 to 26 inches. And it's because of the way that the land slopes. I wanted to make everything, you know, level, so this is a little bit higher. But the thing, it works exactly the same. I got my rope here holding everything in place. This one here, I already have my furring strip in place. So this is holding the plastic, so there's no wind. Wind can't get in here. You can see how it's kind of doctored up. Wind can't get in here this winter and to blow this stuff around. And again, it goes up the same way. I got a crank here. I'll be redoing these cranks, of course, in the springtime. I don't need to do them right now because save a little bit of money for the winter, and plus I won't be using those. But as you see, you know, they're nice and straight. And I think come springtime and really into next summer, having these having these side curtains will really give me a lot more versatility with venting. That combined with the two top vents, the door and the big vent at that end, the roll up sides is I'll basically be able to control every aspect of ventilation. Now the greenhouse over there, well, I either had the doors open or the windows open or they had them shut. There was no kind of in between, and plus I had 3 box fans in there, which did an adequate job in the beginning part of the year, but once it started getting really hot, they couldn't keep up. So that's something I will be looking into for next year, is how to better ventilate that long greenhouse. Now, of course, doing a roll-up side would work, but it's not set up that way. So I may just kind of cut vents in it every 12 inches on the bottom, as you saw in one of my previous videos. We'll see. But anyway, that's the side curtains. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments.